Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on my Christmas cactus bonsai. Here's a look at the two Christmas cactus I have. The one on the left hand side here is a cutting off of the larger one, and I see where I cut the cutting off, it's grown back in again. Here's a look at the area where I took that cutting off of, and you can see now it's grown back in with vigor. So every time I cut that branch off in that area, a new one grows in. So I think it's just destined to have a branch in that area. This has always been the front of the tree, but I think there's a better front. If I rotate it around, definitely not this view because that branch, that low branch sticking up. The back view, it has this branch that kind of crosses the trunk line, which isn't really good. But then when you come around this view, it starts to look pretty good. Everything kind of comes towards you. There's a nice main trunk growing vertical. That low branch becomes a back branch. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good view for the front, somewhere around here. Maybe even there. At the moment, the tree is in this kind of long, skinny pot, which doesn't suit the tree at all. So do you remember that pot I cleaned up in the video, that kind of round, fancy one? That might be the pot for it. I'll show you that. Here's a look at the pot in front of the tree here. And I think it would look quite nice. You know, this has sort of got a round canopy and it weeps down. The pot's kind of high, fancy pot with a fancy tree. So I think that's my goal, to get it from this long rectangular pot into this fancy round one and prune up the tree. The beauty of these Christmas cactus is the beautiful weeping branches and the flowers, of course. This tree is just about done flowering. There's just a couple of withered flowers on it, maybe one flower that's still looking good. But so I'm going to prune it back today, trying to kind of keep that weeping form. Now what I'm after is to get ramification. So I'll show you a branch without ramification. Here's a branch here with very little ramification. It divides here, and then it's got a segment here, another leaf segment, another leaf segment, and another leaf segment. So ideally, you want to prune it back to here, and then get this one leaf segment dividing into two branches, and then that one dividing into two more, and so on. So you get lots of branching happening in the canopy of the tree. Here's a branch here that comes out, and it does divide into two here, but it doesn't divide into two at the end of this segment. So this could be pruned off here, and then I could get a subdivision earlier on that branch instead of way out at the tip here. That's the approach I'll be using when I go to prune the tree. I'll try and get each segment to divide from 1 into 2, and then from the 2 into 4, and 4 into 8, and so on. So no double segments of leaves without any subdivision. All right, I'm going to begin pruning. And where do I start? That's a good question. I could start down low, pruning that lowest branch up, or I could start up in the apex here and just prune for that division. So every branch that has segment after segment after segment without any subdividing, I can prune it off. So I think that's where I'll start. I'll just start a general prune, pruning off the segments that don't subdivide. And the tree will look quite bare after this operation, but it will grow once again. Here's a close-up look at where I prune. So I leave just a little tiny segment of the end leaf on the branch like that. And then this usually will subdivide as it grows. Here's an example of a branch that comes out and divides from 1 into 1, 2, 3 segments. It's best to have it divide from 1 and then have 2 coming off. It makes it look more tree-like instead of just a regular house plant. So I've got to pick which of the 2 I want to keep. And this one's kind of going uphill, so I'll take this one off and keep these 2. Like that. I'll continue pruning segments back, trying to get that division from 1 into 2. And I may have to come in and thin it out later on. I'm going to just concentrate on branching for now, trying to, get that segments reduced. And then I may come in and further prune out branches. You can see here, it's getting very crowded in one area. So I may have to come in and thin all those out. Yeah, the tree is going to look quite naked after this. Here's an example here. I've got one segment dividing into 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think I'll keep my tightest divisions there, maybe. Yeah, I think I'll keep the middle two and prune out the outer ones. That keeps it dividing from 1 to 2. Like that. And I may remove that entire branch because it's growing upwards later on, but for now I'm just doing my reduction work, pruning the segments back. Like here's a segment, another single segment, so I'll prune off all that ramification just to get it subdividing earlier. Here's another case. I've got 1 dividing into 1, 2, 3, 4 again, and I think I'll take off this one. And this one. Prune this one back. And this one back. Here's one that needs pruning back. Like that. Another one here. And then I've got one back here that needs pruning back. Like that. And one out the back here. So again, I'll prune it back to the first segment. And that's got this one branch pruned up. Everything's down to 1 leaflet dividing into 2. This branch, I've got to take the tip off here. This tip. And this one's dividing from 1 to 3. I'm going to take this inner one off. Like that. Everything else is looking pretty good on that branch. Pruning for the future. It'll all grow back in again. Just gotta keep it in check. All these leaves I'm pruning off, if you were to plant those, they would root and grow. So they're quite easy to propagate. That one's good. It divides from 1 to 2. This one divides into 2, and then this one divides into 2 again. Now this isn't a traditional bonsai, and a lot of people wouldn't even call this a bonsai because, well, first of all, it's a succulent. However, I think, any plant you can get a tree-like form to it, I would call it a bonsai. If you can train and shape it, then I call it a bonsai. And I don't care if people disagree with me, because a bonsai is just basically a potted plant that's shaped, and that's what I'm doing here, shaping it. Shaped or miniaturized. Whatever makes you happy, you do. And this plant is always so beautiful, and it always makes me happy when it comes out in flower, and just looking at it, it's a beautiful plant. There's a long branch here without any subdividing, so prune it off. And hope to get subdividing on it. Now I've got to inspect it. I'm not sure I got all my divisions. I've got to just check each branch. Make sure everything's dividing from 1 to 2. There's the odd one like down here. There's 2 straight segments in a row and then it subdivides. So I left it because I don't want to lose these branches out here. So I think next I've got to prune it for shape. So let's do that now. Here's a look at the tree from somewhere around the front view, the new front view. So next I've got to come down to eye level and start doing branch selection. There's a lot of areas that are really congested. Branches growing in towards the center of the tree, crisscrossing branches. So I've got to thin the basic structure out. All right, there's a little shoot trying to grow at the root base down here. I'm going to take that off. I've got enough branches down low. Speaking of my low branches, this lowest branch here, I've got 1, 2, 3 main trunks coming up. I only need the one, so I'm going to take out the smallest one. So this one, that one comes out. And then there's one at the back here I can remove also. I don't want this looking like a clump style. I want it to be kind of, this is the main trunk line and this is just maybe an auxiliary low branch. So I'm looking at that now. Yeah, I think the front view will be, I think it's already marked. There's a wire in here. That's funny. So that is the front view where the wire is marked. I must have done that. So now I've got a trunk coming up and I've got to choose between these two. So which one do I choose? If I choose this one, it's kind of a wide spacing between the main trunk and this branch. This one I think is closer to the trunk and looks better. I think this one's just too far out to the one side. So I'm going to prune this outer one off. So here I go. Just like that. Then I have another one growing in towards the main trunk. I've got to prune that one out. Like that. And then you'll notice I've got no real branching until way up here. So I could prune it off here and try and get some sub-branching down lower, which I think I will do. So I'm going to take it off right here. Hopefully I'll get something, you know, to get a little branch in this area would be really nice. Now, I have a stub up here, and this little stub kind of crosses the main trunk line there. I'm going to remove that. Like that. And again, I have this segment comes up. There's a segment here, another segment, another segment. It does subdivide here, but I'm not really liking this subdivision coming towards the inside here. I think I'm going to hard prune this one off here and take this one out like that. Some tough decisions with this tree. Now there's one coming out here, no subdividing, so I'm going to take that one off here. I've got some branches coming in towards the center here. I'm going to remove those. I don't want it cluttered up. Then I noticed I have some insect eggs. These are spider eggs. They may be old ones, I hope. I'm going to take them off. This one's definitely old. Oh, there's a whole bunch of spiders crawling around down here. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of little spiders crawling around. I don't know where they're from. They must have had a nest in here. I'll continue with the pruning. These spiders will just have to find a new home in the greenhouse. I've got a division here. I've got 1, 2, 3. I don't think I want the one on the inside here, so I'm removing that one. Out it goes. This one divides into two again. This one can be pruned off here. No subdividing on that branch. And then I got a strong one coming out the side here. And well, I missed this one. It divides from 1 into 3. And I'm wondering if I should prune it back to this segment, keeping that branch shorter. I think I will. So hard pruning it back like that. Taking that branch off. And then the branch behind here, it still has a lot of clutter. It goes from 1 into 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to take out some of these other small ones on the inside here. That one and this one. Like that. So now it divides from 1 to 2. And then to 2. Take this one off. 1 to 2. To 2 again. To 2 again. This one's got to come off. And this top one comes off. Okay. Now behind that, I've got dividing from 1 to 3 here. I'm wondering, I'm thinking maybe taking that center one out. These are older branches, so I am going to do that. I should have noticed that before, that it was 1 to 3, but as you prune away, you kind of reveal more of the structure and you can kind of see more. There it goes, so that segment's out. So now that's dividing from 1 to 2. This one has 1 to 3. I think I'm going to take that lowest one out like that. This one can be pruned back. This one's fine, this one can get pruned off, and this one can get pruned off. Like that. So that's looking pretty good. Really cleaned that side of the tree up. I've got my main trunk line coming up, and I've got some branching back here. So I've got 2 branches coming off from the same spot there. I definitely don't want this one. This is a nice branch, this one above it isn't. It's a new one. Take that one out. I'm going to keep them both. Even though I've got 2 branches coming from one spot, this one looks good over on this side. It kind of fills in this area. Maybe until this one gets more developed. I'm going to keep it for now. This branch, this one needs pruning here. The rest are all good. So now I'm following the trunk line up to the top, and I've got a division from 1 into 3 here. I've got 1 on the inside. That one can come out. That's a newer branch. Not as nice and woody as the other 2. So it divides from 1 to 2 here, and then I've got multiple divisions up here. I've got good strong woody one and a lot of soft growth on the inside here. So I'm going to keep this nice strong one. I'm going to remove the one. I'm going to remove this one on the inside here. So here I go. And then I'm going to keep one of these ones fanning out, which will be this one, and remove these other ones here. Again, you know, tough decisions, but you got to make them to keep your structure clean. Now this one, this woody one, there's one segment here without any subdivision, so I'm going to prune it off. Bit of hard pruning there. Shorten that branch a bit. So that takes care of this part of the trunk line. Now this one has the same problem. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 divisions. So I've got to pick my nicest ones. Definitely not the one on the inside here. I'll take that out. I've got a fairly thick woody one here, which isn't bad. I think I better take the middle one out. It's a younger branch. I'm going to keep my older branches each side of it. Like that. So this branch, it comes up, divides from 1 to 2. This one comes up, divides from 1 to 3. I don't think I want the vertical one, so that one comes off. And the rest are good. Now I could prune this vertical part off it's kind of an extension of the line of this branch. So I'm going to prune it off just for shaping it. I think it was getting too tall and vertical looking, that branch, so it needed a change of direction. So even though I lost some ramification, I gained a change of direction and I shortened the branch down. So that completes this trunk line. So the next one comes up, divides it from 1 to 2. And at the back here, I've got it dividing from 1 to 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to pick my ones fanning outwards. Get rid of the other ones like that. So that's got that taken care of. Now the other segment here comes up and divides from 1 into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 branches coming from one spot. So I've got to pick my nicest ones. Not the one coming in towards the center. I'm going to take that one out. That one's gone. There's a little one coming out front, which isn't bad. I want to prune, see how this branch is quite vertical. I want to stop that. I want to get it a change of direction. So I'm going to take these vertical ones out on the inside here. That one and this one. So now I'm narrowing it down. I do like this one fanning out to the side. But it's also nice having something coming out front. I'm going to take this little one out. So I've got 4 branches up here now. Tough decisions here. I've already got a branch coming out the back, so I don't think I need this one coming out the back, so I'm going to take that one out. I'd rather a branch coming more forward. So now I'm divided from 1 to 3 up there. I'm going to keep the 2 vertical ones and keep this one, take this one off. Like that. I'll reduce this segment back. I got this one coming up, dividing from 1 to 3. I'm going to take this one out like that. And that, I think, completes the pruning. I'm going to step back and have a look at it. I'm standing back having a look at the Christmas cactus now. I think it's looking quite nice. I like, it's quite vertical, you know, you could cut the top off, but then, you know, when you have vertical branches like this, you've got room for them to come out and weep. If you have it too short, then the branches will hang down below the pot. So it's probably best to keep it fairly tall. And it is quite woody up in this upper section, so it would be a shame to cut it back that hard when it, you know, it's gotten that old and woody. And I think it's going to look really nice tall when all that new growth comes out and cascades down with the flowers. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything on it that really bugs me. Maybe I could take that one branch off behind here. I'll do that. Where it was dividing from 1 to 2 here. I'll take that one off. Yeah, so somewhere around here's the front. Now I've got to get it into that new pot. I think the new pot will look a little big for the tree at first until it grows in again. Gets all those branches. But I think it's going to be a nice combination. I'm going to start by stripping all the moss off the surface of the Christmas cactus so I can see what the root base is looking like. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to strip it off by hand or if I'll have to use tweezers. I'll get my root rake in there, do a little bit of raking. All right, I think I'll try and get it out of the pot now. All right, here I go. Let me see. There's 2 small drainage holes in the bottom. I'll take my front marker out. I think I'll have to loosen it up. I can't remember when I last repotted it, but I know it's been quite a while. So I'm definitely going to have to loosen the root system up in the pot here, because it'll be quite pot bound. And I'm hoping, because this new pot is a little larger, I hope it kind of gives the tree a lot of good strength. I don't know how large these can get. I mean, as a house plant, I've seen them where they're huge. But, you know, I don't know how old some of these woody trunks can get on them. I would think quite old, because I know people have them as house plants, and some people have shown me pictures of ones that are 70 years old and they still look healthy. So I don't think there's much of a limit to the lifespan of these if they're properly taken care of. There it comes. Which is good. I mean, that's what you want in a bonsai. There it is. Yeah, you can see all the fine roots in there. So, you know, there's not a whole lot of point of combing those out, because, you know, it's not jam-packed root bound. And they're very fine, and if you try and comb them, you'll probably just tear through 90% of them. You'll basically be starting over as more of a cutting, planting a cutting. So I'm just going to kind of get my drainage screens out, comb it out a bit. The soil looks fine in here. There's nothing wrong. It drains nicely. It's porous. A lot of fine roots. Okay, I'm going to test fit it in the new pot now. So I'm going to find my front, just somewhere around here. And so it's very close to fitting the lengthwise, so I might just have to comb that out a bit. And I'll take a little bit off this side too. Okay. Let's see if it fits in the pot now. It does. I gotta be careful, because the trunk on this is getting all kinds of little spines on it, which will probably stick into my skin. The front of my tree is about here, so I'm going to place it in the pot, see how high it is. That seems a pretty good height in the pot. It's, you know, the root base is above the lip. The roots can kind of taper down into the soil. I'm thinking that's pretty good. So I'll comb out these surface roots, try and get those as radial as I can. Kind of avoid my crossing roots, combing them out so they're, yeah, so it's a good looking root base. Now, the center of my tree is a little off the center of the pot. I don't think I like that, actually. So I'm going to comb a little more off this side of the root base so I can move the tree a little more central in the pot. I think that looks good in a round pot usually. You don't want them too far off center unless they're kind of a slanting tree or something like that. Okay, I think I've got to get the drainage screen in the bottom of the pot. A small layer of soil in the bottom, and then I can put the tree in. I thought I'd better show you how much foliage I took off the tree, so here it is. There's a lot here. Layers deep too. Yeah, so I took a lot of foliage off, but it certainly looks more tree-like now. I've got my drainage screen in the bottom of the pot, so now I'll add a base layer of soil. Like that, and now I can position the tree. Now, I do want the front. If we look at the pot, I can have the pot in two positions. If this is the front of the tree, I can have a leg each side, or I can have a leg in the middle, like that. Now, I personally prefer to have the leg each side, like that. But that's just my preference. So I'll place the tree in the pot now. So that is going to be the front. So I'm putting the front of the tree between those two legs like that. Now let's step back and have a look at it. So I'm just lining it all up. I don't think I want to have it slanting like that. Not too much anyway. So I think more like that. And I think that's pretty good rotation-wise and orientation of the front of the pot there. So you're looking at the front view now. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so I'll fill it in with soil now. And I always put my mask on because this stuff isn't good to breathe in, this soil, the perlite particles and the clay particles. It's best to keep your lungs as healthy as possible. I've got the soil into the pot now, so I'm just making sure it's all settled down among the roots. It seems to be the tree is nice and firm in the pot. I was worried about it tipping over at the start of the day. I thought, but it's really stable in there, especially with the reduced foliage up top. Okay, so I'm going to stand back and have a look at it now. I want to see if everything's looking good on the tree before I give it a water. Here's a look at the tree in the pot. I'm thinking the pot really suits it. I think it's a fancy looking pot, very unusual, and it's a very unusual bonsai too. And I think once, it comes out cascading with those flowers, the dark pot will really set those brightly colored, pinkish flowers off. I think it's going to be a good combination. And the color of the pot is different enough from the trunk that it kind of highlights the brownish color of the trunk. I think it's a good pot. I think it suits it well. At least that's my initial impression anyway. So I'm going to give the tree a watering now. This is nice porous soil. It should like growing in this pot with a little extra room. The work is finished on my larger Christmas cactus, so now I'm going to prune up the cutting. You can see that all these three branches are flat in this view. They're all one behind each other. So that's never very good. It makes a very two-dimensional tree. So I'm going to prune this long branch off here. It's too long. And I'm going to prune this long branch off up here. It's just too long. And there's some up the back here that are also getting way too big. So some hard pruning on them. And this one too. Like that. Just to get it more compact. Now, I'm looking at these three trunks again. I'm going to get rid of one. I like this one. It's the thickest. This one's upright. I think I'll get rid of that one. I'm sure it'll sprout another branch there as soon as I do this, but here I go. Like that. So it divides from 1 to 2. 1 to 2 here. I don't like this one crossing in on the inside here. I'll take that one out. This one comes up, divides into 1, 2, 3, 4. So I don't want the one growing up the middle here. Take that one out. There's another one growing up the middle here. That makes 3. I think I'll take out this one. Like that. Dividing from 1 to 2. This one divides from 1 to 2 here. And then it divides from 1 into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I got to do some, choose some branches, I guess. Take out this one going to the inside and also this one. I want to get some three-dimensionality, so anything kind of coming forwards or backwards is good. These two come forward, so I'm going to just keep. This one's kind of growing over top of the other branch. I'll get rid of that one. Keep this one coming forward. I got one coming backwards. I'll take out this other thick one here. Like that. And I'm going to prune this one back. That is a good severe pruning. But I think that's better. Now, as far as a front view, I would probably say somewhere around here. You don't want these two branches flat on to the viewer. So maybe a slight rotation like that with my thickest one coming forward. Somewhere around there. Once again, quite a pile of branches. This would make a really nice cutting. You can see it's getting woody already. Just stick that in soil. But I already have 2 of these Christmas cactus. I can't have any more. So there's a look at the 2 Christmas cactus together. They're looking pretty good. I'm looking forward to them growing again and getting flowers again, hopefully next year. It was a big transformation today of my larger Christmas cactus, trimming it up and getting it in the new pot, getting that new front to the tree. And I really like it. I think it was a good day for the Christmas cactus. My little one got pruned up too, so someday as it grows bigger, I'll get a nice fancy pot for it too. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.